If you've been around hip-hop for a minute, then you probably heard about 50 Cent, DMX, Fat Joe, JC, Dr. Dre, Snoop Dogg, and everybody in between. There's one man that all these legends have in common, somebody that took them to the #1 spot in the game. If you're a hip-hop fan and you haven't heard about the name STORCH, then you're in the right place. If you're familiar with his work, then he'll surely be in your top 5 producer of all time by the end of this video. He's been gaining traction over the past few months, making appearances in the Joe Rogan and PBD podcasts, which makes me think he has some big things around the way. So I thought it was a great time to remind the world about what he has done for music in the hip-hop game. Scott grew up in Philadelphia and taught himself how to play the piano from a young age. His parents, with the little money they had, got him a piano teacher who said the young Storch was unteachable and eventually quit. Little did he know that this is the reason why this man will blow up in the future. He had a way of playing the piano like if it was drums. The guy had the rhythm flowing out of him naturally. If you notice, his music is very simple, yet it's very catchy and danceable. At 15 years old, he started to skip school and spend time at Rough House Studios to play the piano, and eventually met his band called The Roots. You might know them for playing in this guy's show, which has a couple subscribers on YouTube. Anyway, if you know anything about this group, they are very instrumental and were surprised by Scott's piano skills. Eventually, the group's manager picked up on him and opened the doors for him to participate in the production of the group's debut and sophomore albums. The group got picked up by Interscope and started to get recognition. However, Scott wasn't happy with how people recognized him. Instead of being as the dope piano player, he was just a white boy from the Roots, and this led him to go his own way and become a producer. In 1999, Scott Storch bumped into a Philly rapper in LA by the name of Eve, which just happened to be signed by Dr. Dre at the time. They were always cool with each other, and she took him to meet Dre. They pulled up to the studio, but he had nothing to play him. Still, Dr. Dre gave him a chance by letting him mess around on the piano a little bit. After hearing him play, he got up and he left the room. Scott Storch felt Dre wasn't interested in him, but then he got back with $10,000 for a hotel room and asked him to stay with him so they could work on the album. Dre was working on the Chronic 2001 album at the time, and everybody thought that Storch had made the wrong move by working with Dre, as he couldn't make a hit record since leaving Death Row in the mid-90s. Little did they know that they would be an essential part of this album by playing the keys in songs like Big Egos, The Watcher, and most notably, Still Dre. If anybody says that this is the best beat in hip-hop history, I really wouldn't have a problem with that. Dre laid down a drum pattern and left to get a sandwich in his kitchen. Scott Storch was just throwing shit at the wall until he came up with these iconic sloppy chords. Dre peeked through his kitchen door and said, "That's it," and the rest was history. The song went on to revive the West Coast, and is now one of the most learned songs in the piano according to Google. Throughout the next few years, he will go on and dominate the Billboard Top 100, working with Snoop Dogg on the song Lay Low, Exhibit with X, Busta Rhymes with Break Your Neck, Family Affair by Mary J, and Let Me Blow Your Mind with Gwen Stefani. Hell, this drill guy's be stealing this melody like crazy. That's how you know how good it is. His talent to make simple yet fire beats was evident, but he was tired of being under Dre's shadow. He was tired of Dre getting all the spotlight, and after seeing him win the Producer of the Year Grammy, he decided to get that for himself. He broke out of Dre's camp and moved down to Miami, where he will go and break records like no other producer had broken yet. Miami's a diarrhea of cultures blended into one city. It's a city that it never gets the props it deserves in hip-hop, as most people say it never had a distinctive sound, aside from the late 80s with the Miami bass movement. In the mid-2000s, Scott Storch started incorporating ethnic sounds to his beats, resembling the cultural melting pot that is Miami, and created a sound that would dominate the charts for years. Although it deviated from the traditional hip-hop elements, it still is a sound that all the rappers used and defined an era, and made him millions of dollars along the way. He spent a total of 35 weeks at #1 during his run, with the biggest hits being Lean Back by Fat Joe and Terror Squad, Baby Boy by Beyonce, 50 Cent's Candy Shop, Let Me Love You by Mario, and the list just goes on and on. When I say this guy was responsible for the careers of many artists, I'm not exaggerating. He was responsible for giving the young 16-year-old Chris Brown his first #1 hit record, and crafting the sound for Beyonce's first album after breaking up from Destiny's Child, which she ended up winning a Grammy for that year. Justin Timberlake was also going solo and breaking away from NSYNC. Scott Storch teamed up with Timbaland to produce probably his biggest hit song, Cry Me a River. Little did he knew that this song would cause a beef between the two hottest producers at the time. STORCH said he didn't receive the proper credit as he assisted with the melody and the bridge, but was just listed as a session keyboard player in the song. This led to a series of subliminal disses between both, but ended up bringing out the best of each other. Even Jay-Z had to dip into the beef, telling STORCH and Timbo that their rival was a better producer than them. This beef led birth to countless hits and careers that have lasted until this day. During the 50 Cent G-Unit meeting in 2003, STORCH was key in the production of hits like Poppin' Them Things, Candy Shop, and Just a Little Bit. Fiddy also had a heated beef with Ja Rule at the time, but that wouldn't let Scott STORCH from expanding his empire. He produced Ja Rule's hit diss tracks like Clap Back, which wasn't even tracked out, making the mix sound quite dirty. Still, the beat was so good that they decided to put it out anyway, and quickly rose in the Billboard Top 100 charts. This man was worth $70 million at one point, had a $10 million house and a 20 luxury car collection, the most expensive one in the history of MTV Cribs. I mean, this man was the original Andrew Tate in the mid-2000s. With all this spotlight, he was introduced to one of the most famous females at the time. The cameras followed her everywhere she went and had the following any person would dream of. Paris Hilton wanted to dibble-dabble into music and led her to meeting Scott STORCH. The two eventually started dating, and she dragged Scott into the fast life that she was living. Scott STORCH got introduced to cocaine and developed an addiction that will cost him his fortune. In an attempt to try and impress Paris, he would spend his money buying a new car every other day, having a 24-hour blunt roller, and living the billionaire lifestyle as a millionaire. He spent more than $30 million in 6 months. Eventually, the two separated and Scott STORCH replaced her with Kim Kardashian, which was Paris' assistant at the time. To be honest, nothing really gets more G than that, man. With all these distractions, his music career took a toll by 2006. This was the last year he entered the Billboard Top 40 until 2019. He made high-profile people wait in the studio for him and lost the opportunity to work with legends such as Janet Jackson. His manager at the time gave up when trying to sober him up and stopped managing him altogether. He alienated a lot of people during these times, claiming that only a handful of people stood beside him when they really shouldn't have. Fat Joe is one guy that Scott really respects, as he claims that the shout out that he gave him on the Lean Back record changed his life forever. This is why he wouldn't do cocaine when Joe was around, and Joe became aware of this and tried to stay longer so he wouldn't get high. Now that's some real friendship right there, man. He also credits Busta Rhymes, DMX, Dr. Dre, and legendary music executive Steve LaBelle for helping him through this era, the latter who became his music manager and business partner in the next phase of his life. In the early 2010s, he was arrested for stealing cars, his home went into foreclosure, and was arrested in Vegas for possessing cocaine. Fast forward to 2015, he declared bankruptcy and only had $3,600 to his name. 100 of them were in cash, 500 in clothes, and a $3,000 watch. This same year, he sobered up and started rebuilding his once successful career. He teamed up with his lawyer and was instrumental in birthing the careers of rappers such as Russ, Trippie Redd, and 6ix9ine, amongst many others. He opened up a rehab center in LA, which DMX was going to get treatment right before passing in 2021. He's still producing and claims to have an album and a movie coming up. I'm pretty sure he has something big around the corner with all the press runs he's doing right now. My algorithm is being swarmed with huge podcasts interviewing him, such as Patrick Bet-David and Joe Rogan's. My best guess is that he will be selling his catalog like many other artists are doing right now, and wants to gather attention so they can close a better deal. Anyways, I'm glad he's getting the recognition he deserves, as his life has a much more interesting story than 99% of the people in today's culture. He really brought a natural element into his music, and in an era of technological dominance, we need this more than ever. I'm a beat maker and he's my biggest musical inspiration, and I hope you all learned a thing or two from this video. If you like hip hop and you like this video, please consider leaving a subscribe and a like. I want these videos to get into the right ears so we can create a culture where real artists appreciate it. Anyways, I got you in the next one, guys. Peace.